It's November 5, 2001. Bonfire Night. Sheffield is alive with fireworks, explosions of color lighting up the South Yorkshire sky. You are a friend of Michaela Hague, and you are walking through a car park off Spitalfields on the outskirts of Sheffield city centre, between Kelham Island and Wicker. You see her on the ground. She is semi-conscious. She has been stabbed 19 times, in her neck, in her back, wounds so numerous and so brutal that she should not be alive. But she is alive. She is conscious. She can speak. You call for help. PC Richard Twigg arrives. He kneels beside her. Michaela Hague, 25 years old, mother of a 5-year-old son, who set off fireworks with her family earlier that evening, tells him what she can. The man who did this, what he looked like, what he was wearing. PC Twigg has no paper. He writes the description on the palm of his hand. White male, about 38 years old, clean shaven, approximately 6 feet tall, blue fleece, glasses, a wedding ring. Michaela Hague is taken to Northern General Hospital. She dies 3 hours later. The man with the wedding ring has never been found. Michaela Hague was born in Sheffield in 1976. She grew up in Parson Cross, a working-class neighborhood in the north of the city, the daughter of Jackie and Mick Hague. By the accounts of everyone who knew her, she was warm, funny, devoted to her family, and fiercely protective of her son. She had a partner, Mick Holmes, who described her as the center of their family. She had a boy who was 5 years old and who would grow up without her. She had parents who loved her completely and who, in the most devastating way possible, did not know everything about her life. In the 3 months before her death, Michaela had begun working as a sex worker in Sheffield's red light district, a stretch of streets around Bower Street and Corporation Street in the city centre. She had been drawn into sex work through drug addiction. Her parents found out only when police came to tell them she had died. They did not know, and that detail, a mother keeping a secret from the people who loved her most, a secret born of addiction rather than shame, is the human context that the investigation's 10,500 lines of inquiry never fully acknowledged. On the evening of November 5, 2001, Michaela left her home in Pittsmoor. She had spent time earlier that evening with her family, her son, her partner, setting off fireworks. At some point that evening she made her way to Bower Street, the heart of Sheffield's red light district, off Corporation Street. Shortly before 8 p.m. she was seen getting into a car on Bower Street, opposite what was then known as the Manchester pub. The driver of that car was a man she had not met before, or had met only recently. What happened in the next few minutes happened somewhere between Bower Street and the car park off Spitalfields, a distance of less than a mile. She was left on the ground in an isolated car park, between the industrial heritage of Kelham Island and the railway arches of the Wicker. On Bonfire Night, with explosions filling the sky, nobody heard anything. Her friend found her shortly after 8 p.m. Still alive, still able to speak. PC Richard Twigg was the first officer on the scene. What he did next is the most extraordinary single investigative moment in this case, and the most haunting. He had no paper. He wrote her words on the palm of his own hand. White male, approximately 38 years old, clean shaven, 6 feet tall, blue fleece, glasses, wedding ring. Those 7 descriptors are everything investigators have ever had of Michaela's killer in terms of physical description. They came from her. She gave them with the last coherent effort of her life. An e-fit of the suspect was produced and circulated nationally. It was screened on BBC's Crime Watch. It generated significant public response. Nobody was ever arrested. The investigation into Michaela Hague's murder became South Yorkshire Police's largest ever murder inquiry. The scale of the investigative effort is almost impossible to comprehend. By 2006, 5 years after the murder, detectives had followed up 10,500 lines of inquiry. They had interviewed 7,400 people. They had eliminated 3,662 owners or drivers of Ford Sierra vehicles, the car type believed to match witness descriptions of the vehicle Michaela got into that night. 10,500 lines of inquiry, 7,400 interviews, 3,662 cars eliminated, and the man with the wedding ring was not among them. Investigators also recovered DNA evidence from the scene, DNA profiles that did not match anyone in the national database at the time. South Yorkshire Police confirmed they were actively working to identify whose DNA it was. As DNA databases have expanded and forensic genealogy techniques have developed, that evidence has remained one of the most significant unresolved elements of the investigation. In 2021, South Yorkshire Police's Major Incident Review Team launched a fresh appeal for information. In November 2024, 23 years after the murder, a new person came forward with information. The investigation remains active and open. The man with the wedding ring went home that night. He has gone home every night since. Someone in Sheffield, or somewhere in England, knows who he is. The murder of Michaela Hague presents a behavioral profile that is both clinically specific and profoundly disturbing, because the evidence she gave from the ground of that car park tells investigators more about her killer than anything that has emerged in 23 years of investigation. Begin with the attack itself. 19 stab wounds to the neck and back. In forensic behavioral analysis, the number of wounds inflicted in a targeted attack carries specific diagnostic meaning. Overkill, defined as wound counts significantly beyond what is required to cause death, is consistently associated with one of three behavioral states: personal rage toward the specific victim, practiced escalation in an offender who has done this before, or a psychological state in which the act of violence itself is the primary driver rather than the outcome. The location of the wounds is diagnostically significant. Wounds concentrated in the neck and back imply an attack from behind or from close proximity with the victim turned away, a posture consistent with someone who drove a car, who controlled the physical space, and who initiated violence at a moment of their own choosing rather than in response to a struggle. This was not a fight. This was an execution of intent by someone who arrived at that car park with a weapon and a decision already made. A man wearing a wedding ring in Sheffield's red light district on Bonfire Night in 2001 is a man with a domestic life. A partner, possibly children, a home address, a daily routine, people who know him. He is not a transient. He is not anonymous. He is embedded in Sheffield's social fabric in a way that means someone has lived beside his secret for 23 years. Behavioral analysts who study serial violence against sex workers consistently identify what they call the organized opportunist profile, an offender who targets a specific victim category not because of impulsivity but because of the calculated belief that victims from marginalized communities are less likely to be vigorously investigated and less likely to generate sustained public attention. The organized opportunist plans in the sense that they carry a weapon, they select a specific location, and they choose a time, bonfire night, fireworks covering sound, that maximizes their ability to commit violence without detection. Whether Michaela Hague's killer falls into this category, whether she was one of multiple victims or the only one, has never been established. South Yorkshire Police have not publicly confirmed or denied connections to other unsolved cases in the region from the same period. The DNA evidence is the detail that most reshapes the behavioral picture for the current investigation. DNA profiles recovered from the scene did not match anyone in the database at the time. But forensic genealogy, the same technique that identified the Golden State Killer after 40 years, has transformed cold case DNA evidence. A partial profile that produced nothing in 2001 or 2006 may today identify a suspect through their relatives' DNA submitted to genealogy databases. That possibility is why this case, 23 years later, is still generating new leads. She gave investigators everything she could from the ground of a Sheffield car park on Bonfire Night. Her son grew up without her. Her killer is still wearing that ring.